Come on, get out here, come out here. Hands up. Hands up, I said. Out here, come out. Time to surrender. Well, what now?
Ukraine is holding Donbass. Let's show a cool video from an action camera how the soldiers of the 63rd Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces tracked down and captured another enemy prisoner in the Lyman direction. The situation is difficult, but there is no encirclement of the defense forces in Pokrovsk and Kupiansk. Syrskyi spoke about the situation after meeting with the commanders. It was a fantastic meeting. He is a wonderful leader. Many decisions were made. Trump spoke about his meeting with Xi Jinping and stated that China and the United States will work together to achieve an end to Russia's war against Ukraine. It has only been seen in computer graphics, but passions are already running high, and they're no joke. Medvedev called Poseidon a doomsday weapon and threatened Belgium with disappearance. And Trump ordered the Pentagon to immediately begin nuclear weapons tests after Putin's statements about Poseidon. In detail, we're going to talk about all of this, friends, right now. In the meantime, give this episode a like. Let's get started. So, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Alexander Syrskyi, denied reports about the encirclement of defense forces in Pokrovsk and Kupiansk. The situation is under control, but remains tense. He made this statement after meeting with commanders. He listened to reports on the current situation, existing needs, and heard proposals. I quote, "The enemy is increasing its activity in the area of Pokrovsk and the Mirhorod agglomeration, so I visited this important direction again. I met with the commanders of Army Corps, military units, and subdivisions who are holding back a numerically superior enemy offensive. The situation is difficult, but the statements by Russian propaganda about the alleged encirclement of Ukraine's defense forces in Pokrovsk as well as in Kupiansk do not correspond to reality," Syrskyi reported. In general, since the start of the full-scale war against Ukraine, Russia has lost more than 1,140,000 people. In the past 24 hours alone, the occupiers' losses amounted to 960 people. But this does not stop the Kremlin's expansionist ambitions. Russia continues its attempts to encircle the Pokrovsk agglomeration. To this end, the enemy has deployed about 11,000 troops. Next, about the situation at the front and how the Ukrainian armed forces are repelling attacks by the Russian army.
On October 29th, Russian invaders demonstratively raised the tricolor on the stele of Ukrainian Pokrovsk. However, within an hour, the enemy flag was destroyed, reports the monitoring project Deep State. At the same time, the project notes that the situation in the city remains difficult as the enemy continues to amass infantry. Ukraine's defense forces are making great efforts to inflict maximum losses on the enemy.
The city is a large gray zone since it lies south of the railway. There are still plenty of our positions. At the same time, it is true that quite a few occupiers have slipped in north of the railway.
But the fact that the Russians continue their attempts to encircle the Pokrovsk agglomeration, reports the 7th Rapid Response Corps of the Air Assault Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
To carry out their plan to encircle the Pokrovsk agglomeration, the enemy has deployed about 11,000 personnel. The enemy groups that managed to infiltrate the city aim to advance to the northwest and north of Pokrovsk.
It is noted that overall, in the area of responsibility of the 7th Air Assault Corps, the enemy has amassed about 27,000 personnel, around 100 tanks, up to 260 armored fighting vehicles, and up to 160 artillery pieces and mortars. The map released by the 7th Corps shows the likely enemy plan to encircle the Pokrovsk agglomeration. Earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the main goal of the Russian Federation right now is to capture the city of Pokrovsk. Political analyst and military expert Kirilo Sazonov says that for Putin, Pokrovsk is the main point on the front.
All efforts are concentrated there.
According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, on October 29th in the Pokrovsk direction, our defenders repelled 55 assault actions by the aggressor. In the Kramatorsk direction, the defense forces successfully stopped 2 enemy attempts to advance. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the enemy carried out 24 attacks. In the North Slobozansk and Kursk directions, there were 5 combat clashes. In the South Slobozansk direction, the enemy also launched 5 assaults. In the Kupiansk direction, there were 15 attacks by the invaders. In the Lyman direction, the enemy attacked 17 times. In the Sloviansk direction, the armed forces repelled 7 enemy attacks. In the Oleksandrivka direction, the enemy carried out 21 attacks. In the Huliaipol direction, the defense forces repelled an enemy attack near the settlement of Zeleny High. In the Orikhiv direction, there were 5 combat engagements. In the Pridniprovsk direction, Ukrainian units repelled 4 enemy assaults towards the Antonivsky Bridge. Meanwhile, dictator Vladimir Putin claimed that in Kupiansk and Pokrovsk, the Ukrainian armed forces are allegedly blocked and surrounded. The command of the Ukrainian armed forces refuted Putin's statement. The Joint Forces Group of the Ukrainian Armed Forces stated that any claims about Ukrainian troops being surrounded in Kupiansk are pure fabrication and fantasy, not based on any actual facts on the ground.
If the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin were not a war criminal, one might even feel sorry that in his old age, once again he is forced to make a fool of himself and repeat after his own generals. A lie that not even his loyal audience or the Russian elites can believe.
Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko also commented on the situation in Kupiansk following Putin's statements.
Indeed, we have many units there. They are operating around Kupiansk. As of today, I believe the situation has been stabilized.
Ukrainian Armed Forces serviceman Kirilo Sazonov said Putin's claim about encircling Ukrainian forces is a lie.
I will add for myself, this isn't the first time he's lied. Don't be so quick to fall for it.
Sazonov added that in the area of the Ukrainian armed forces, the occupiers were pushed back from Kucheryavy Yar and Novoshakove.
In the Dobropilya direction, Ukrainian defense forces continue to press those who broke through. Their logistics now rely solely on drones. They've gone into a deep defensive posture, not advancing anywhere anymore, but that hasn't saved them. Supply, well, from drones, as you can imagine, is unstable. Since
the start of the full-scale war against Ukraine, Russia has lost more than 1,140,000 people. The losses of the Russian invaders over the past day amounted to 960 people.
Meanwhile, in Russia, they have once again announced their readiness to implement a mini ceasefire in the Pokrovsk and Kupiansk directions in order to organize a press tour for foreign journalists. The corresponding order to the Russian troops was allegedly given by the Russian dictator and war criminal Vladimir Putin. This was reported by Russian propaganda media citing the Russian Ministry of Defense. They stated that they are supposedly ready, if necessary, to temporarily cease hostilities for 5 to 6 hours and provide safe corridors for the entry and exit of representatives of foreign, including Ukrainian media, provided that the safety of both journalists and Russian military personnel is ensured. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Heor Hitiki, commenting on Putin's order, said that journalists should not trust any of his proposals regarding the creation of humanitarian corridors in the combat zone. He recalled that he had already had the opportunity to witness the consequences of such initiatives. On August 29, 2014, in Ilovaisk, Putin's only goal is to prolong the war, and he has never adhered to any of his promised ceasefires, which he also spoke about. Don't help him justify his crimes through Russian provocations against journalists, noted the spokesperson for the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry. And what about the soldiers? The Ukrainian armed forces not only steadfastly hold their positions on the front line, but also capture Russian soldiers every day. An awesome real-time action camera video was published by the soldiers of the 63rd Brigade of the Ukrainian Defense Forces. They tracked down and captured an occupier who was trying to dig in behind their unit's lines. And it wasn't even the infantry or assault troops who did this, but the pilots of the 3rd Battalion of the brigade, who usually carry out aerial reconnaissance and drone strike missions. This time they demonstrated not only their skill in the sky, but also determination on the ground. As for the prisoner, who by his own admission hadn't eaten for 6 days, he was fed and sent to the rear to be added to the exchange pool. American and Chinese leaders met in the South Korean city of Busan. After the meeting, Donald Trump rated the summit 12 out of 10 and announced that tariffs on goods from China would be reduced. Regarding Russian aggression against Ukraine, Trump assured that they talked at length about Ukraine and will work together to do something about it. Let us recall that on the eve of the meeting, the US president stated that he planned to talk with Chinese leader Xi Jinping to persuade him to stop buying Russian oil. What did Trump and Xi agree on? How willing is China to stop cooperating with the Kremlin? More on this in the story ahead.
US President Donald Trump held a meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. According to Reuters, the meeting lasted an hour and 40 minutes. After the meeting, Trump stated that it was an amazing meeting and that many important decisions were made. Trump rated the meeting with the Chinese leader a 12 out of 10 and announced reciprocal visits. After the meeting, Donald Trump announced that he had reduced tariffs on goods from China. The reduction will take effect immediately. The overall tariff rate on Chinese exports to the US will decrease from 57% to 47%. The American leader said that he discussed Russia's war against Ukraine with Xi.
We spoke at length with Xi about Ukraine. We will work together to do something about it. We agreed that both sides are bogged down in the fighting.
International observer and Middle East affairs expert Con Coughlin stated that the meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping could help achieve a breakthrough in his efforts to end the war in Ukraine. After all, according to the expert, Russia's military campaign is largely supported by Beijing, especially thanks to China's willingness to continue purchasing large volumes of Russian oil despite Western sanctions. In his article for The Telegraph, Coughlin writes that China is providing Moscow with technological support. They supply drones and missile systems that help the Russian army compensate for significant losses on the battlefield. Ending the so-called no-limits partnership between the autocratic regimes of Moscow and Beijing has become one of the key goals of the Trump administration. It is noted that relations between Russia and China have always been complicated, including due to historical territorial disputes. For example, in Manchuria, which nearly led to open war in the 1960s. And although these disagreements were officially resolved in 2003, Moscow still remains wary of China's long-term plans. Another indicator of tension between Moscow and Beijing is China's reluctance to officially recognize Russian control over Ukrainian territory seized since 2014. This means that while Beijing is willing to provide Russia with certain support, it does not intend to enter into direct confrontation with the United States. Thus, the recent summit between Trump and South Korea may play an important role in determining how willing China will be to continue supporting Putin in his war against Ukraine. Failing to persuade Putin to directly agree to a ceasefire, Trump may achieve this goal by striking a new trade deal with Beijing, the article in The Telegraph notes. Earlier, it became known that the largest Chinese state-owned oil companies have suspended purchases of Russian oil delivered by sea. As reported by Reuters, this happened after the US imposed sanctions against Russian oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil.
It has only been seen in computer graphics, but passions are already running high. And they're no joke. Medvedev called Poseidon a doomsday weapon and even threatened Belgium with disappearance. And Trump ordered the Pentagon to immediately begin nuclear weapons tests after Putin's statements about Poseidon and Burevestnik. Unlike Burevestnik, Poseidon can be considered a true doomsday weapon, wrote war criminal and deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council Dmitry Medvedev on the social network X, accompanying the text with two emojis, a lightning bolt and a skull. He specifically mentioned Belgian Defense Minister Theo Franken, who had previously stated that NATO would wipe Moscow off the face of the earth. This would be in the event that Putin attempts to use new nuclear weapons in an attack on Europe. In response, Medvedev threatened that Belgium would disappear if Russia were to test Poseidon off its coast. Apparently, this time Donald Trump took the statements of Putin and his court jester seriously. On the same day, the US president announced the resumption of American nuclear tests, taking into account the testing programs of other countries. So, Putin continues to boast about nuclear weapons. This time he announced tests of the underwater. This comes just a few days after Putin spoke about a test launch of a cruise missile. The Burevestnik also with a nuclear engine. What exactly is the Poseidon? And what advice did the American leader Donald Trump give to the president of the aggressor country, Russia? Let's talk about this in detail.
Russia has conducted a test of the Poseidon underwater vehicle, announced Russian leader Vladimir Putin during a meeting with the occupiers fighting against Ukraine. Vladimir Putin during a meeting with the occupiers fighting against Ukraine.
For the very first time, it was not only possible to successfully launch it from the underwater carrier by using the booster engine, but it was also possible to start up the nuclear power unit, which is the system on which the device operated for a certain period of time.
The dictator stated that the power of the Poseidon significantly exceeds that of the intercontinental missile Sarmat.
There is nothing like it in the world. Yes, with the Sarmat, and it's not yet on active duty with us. It will be on duty soon. But the Poseidon significantly surpasses the Sarmat in terms of power.
Putin added that supposedly in terms of speed, there is nothing in the world that can match the Poseidon and nothing will appear in the near future. The dictator also insists that there are no means to intercept this missile. The Russian Poseidon is one of the most mysterious projects in the modern Russian arsenal. It is officially positioned as an unmanned underwater vehicle with a nuclear engine capable of carrying a super high-yield nuclear warhead. There is little concrete information about this weapon of the Russian Federation in open sources. It is known that the Poseidon is a gigantic autonomous torpedo capable of traveling underwater across intercontinental distances. It is designed to strike coastal targets. The Poseidon is about 20 meters long and up to 2 meters in diameter. It weighs up to 100 tons. And a few days earlier, Putin held a meeting with the head of the Russian General Staff where he boasted about the test of the Burevestnik nuclear missile.
This is truly a unique product which no one else in the world possesses. Now the decisive tests have been completed.
At that time, Gerasimov reported to Putin about the test of a cruise missile with unlimited range and a nuclear power unit, which was conducted on October 21st. This
was carried out. A multi-hour flight of the missile, during which it covered a distance of 14,000 kilometers. And that's not the limit. On a nuclear power unit,
as Andrei Ryzhenko, a retired captain of the first rank, told the Unian agency, the Burevestnik could be shot down dozens of times during its flight. According to him, it is a subsonic cruise missile, which in its shape is similar to the Kh-101 or Kalibr missile. In turn, US President Donald Trump responded to the statement by Russian dictator Vladimir Putin about the tests of the Burevestnik missile. Answering questions from journalists, he reminded Putin that the US has nuclear submarines stationed near Russia.
They know that we have a nuclear submarine, the largest in the world, right off their shores.
Trump noted that he is not playing games with Russia. In his opinion, Putin should be thinking about ending the war he started against Ukraine, not about testing missiles.
He should put an end to the war, a war that was supposed to last 1 week, but is now in its 4th year. That's what he should be doing instead of testing missiles.
Russia has previously conducted multiple tests of the Burevestnik missile, all of which ended in failure. For example, in 2019 to the west of the city of Arkhangelsk, during an attempt to lift the cruise missile from the seabed near the Russian Navy's missile test range, an explosion occurred. And on October 22nd, the Russians launched a Yars intercontinental ballistic missile in Kamchatka. According to the aggressor country, the Yars has a strike range of up to 12,000 kilometers.
And once again, he lied. Russian leader Putin visited a Moscow hospital, where they specifically brought back already discharged and carefully selected participants of the so-called special military operation for the occasion. Apparently, stories about mythical petrol missiles and Poseidons weren't enough for him, so Putin decided to show off miraculous icons that supposedly protect his troops from bullets. However, it soon turned out that these icons were painted on plates taken from bulletproof vests. Then they were given to Putin as a gift, and he brought them back to show how miraculous and bulletproof they supposedly are. So much for divine providence. As you can see, this trick has nothing to do with it. But then neither does any of the other coins pulled by the balding Kremlin KGB man. I want to watch ballet, Let the Swans Dance. You can find videos online of young people in Russia singing the lyrics to this band's song. Putin's regime is afraid of street musicians. So on Wednesday, October 29th, the Smolensky District Court of St. Petersburg arrested 18-year-old Diana Loginova, the lead singer of the street band Stop Time. She's known by the stage name Nauka. She was charged under the article for organizing a mass gathering of people. The court also arrested Stop Time's guitarist Alexander Orlov under the same article. Earlier, the Leninsky Court of St. Petersburg had already found Nauka guilty of discrediting the Russian army. Nauka gained fame by performing songs by so-called foreign agents. A wave of support for the detained street musicians has swept across Russia. We'll tell you more about this in our report. And you, friends, don't forget to like this episode.
Ava's hair is wet, TV with Oleg's on my wrist. My Russia is in prison, in a trap of prison. This will go.
The lead singer of the street band Stop Time, Russian citizen Diana Loginova, known by the stage name Nayok, was arrested for 13 days under the article on organizing a mass gathering of people that resulted in a violation of public order. The court also arrested Stop Time's guitarist Alexander Orlov for the same period and under the same article. The musicians were accused of the band's concert at the corner of Nevsky Prospect obstructing access to the metro. However, as reported by the media, there is no metro entrance at that location. The musician's lawyer, Sergei Loktev, emphasized in court that the complaint on which the new protocol was based was almost word-for-word copied from the previous report. Another 13 days of arrest were given to Nauka under the article on petty hooliganism. This was due to the use of profanity in one of the songs. The performer herself insisted that she did not organize anything since she chose the spot to perform her song spontaneously, and the people who stopped to listen to her did not obstruct the flow of traffic. Loginova is a student at a music college. In the center of St. Petersburg, she performed songs by Monetochka, Zemfira, as well as the band Pornofilmy, which the Russian authorities consider to be foreign agents. Earlier, the young street singer's mother stated that they had managed to raise enough funds for the girl's legal defense. Shortly before the next court hearing, it became known that Alexander Orlov had proposed marriage to Loginova.
It's not certain that we'll see or contact each other again anytime soon. By the way, we're going to get married.
It is reported that Orlov asked Loginova to marry him in a police van on October 17th when they were being taken to a detention center to serve their first administrative arrest. It has become known that street musician Evgeny Mikhailov was detained in Yekaterinburg after he expressed support for the group Stop Time and singer Diana Loginova. He was kept in custody until the trial. The musician is being charged with petty hooliganism. Mikhailov said that Toko and the group Stop Time became examples of courage and openness for him. An activist in Moscow spoke out against the detention of street musicians. The young man staged a solo protest near the Soy Wall on Old Arbat in the center of the Russian capital. He held a sign that read, "Music is not a crime," and featured an image of an eye dancing among swan-like law enforcement officers.
Victor Tsoi, whose memory I am now standing near, said that a person must first and foremost be free from any external circumstances, and above all preserve their humanity. And I really want all of us to keep our humanity and hold on to this freedom within ourselves. To perform, to sing what we like, to do what we enjoy. To say what we want to say.
Another activist in Moscow staged a picket demanding the release of the musician from Stop Time.